Sarah, you've introduced the concept of what you call valuability. How do you define it, and how is it different from traditional KPIs organizations often focus on?
At Ulteig, we look at things with a valuability lens. So we assess how we create value across three critical pillars. First pillar is for our clients. The second pillar is for our employees. And the third is for the communities that we serve. Breaking that down a little bit, when we think about value for our clients, it's thinking about how do we create solutions that aren't just solving that specific project need, but thinking about what is your client's.
In a world of workforce challenges, policy shifts, and rapid technological change, engineering leaders face a pressing question. How can they make decisions that deliver lasting impact and not just short-term wins? This episode dives into a fresh approach that goes beyond traditional success metrics to help engineers navigate today's uncertainty with confidence. Joining us is Sarah Beckman, Chief Strategy Officer at Ulteig, and a champion of what she calls valuability. We'll discuss what valuability really means, how it balances the needs of clients, employees, and communities, and the role innovation plays in building sustainable infrastructure while still delivering results today. If you're a civil engineer or infrastructure professional looking to lead more strategically and shape the future of project delivery, you won't want to miss this conversation. It's packed with insights that will help you think beyond the next deadline and create value that lasts. Before we jump in, I want to tell you about our AEC PM Connect event, an interactive experience where civil engineers can sharpen their project management skills through real-world sessions on topics like earned value, AI in project management, and risk management. Visit aecpmconnect.com and register today. We currently have events in Kansas City and New Jersey, with more coming. I'm your host, James Taylor, and this is the Civil Engineering Podcast, the industry's leading show for civil engineering professionals, ranked as the #1 civil engineering podcast by FeedSpot. It's now time for our civil engineering conversation of the week with Sarah Beckman, Chief Strategy Officer at Ulteig. Sarah, welcome to the Civil Engineering Podcast.
Hi, thanks for having me, James.
So Sarah, to start off, can you tell us a little bit about yourself? What led you to focus on civil engineering and infrastructure strategy at Ulteig?
Yeah, you bet. So as a kid, I instead of playing with dolls and things like that, I actually really loved playing with Legos and blocks and trains. So probably unique in that aspect. So I knew by the time I was in 5th grade that I wanted to be a civil engineer, wanted to build things. So that led me to the University of Missouri, where I studied civil engineering. And I was actually just one of 4 women in my class. And that really set the stage for my career in civil engineering. I took a lot of time in my early career designing things like bridges, water and wastewater treatment facilities. I also spent a good amount of time in the power infrastructure industry, so designing substations and transmission lines, and really found that I enjoyed that infrastructure strategy. I loved being able to connect the dots between the stuff that I was building today in those projects and designing for those infrastructure needs of tomorrow. So that really led me to think about things more holistically about, hey, where are we going to be in 20 years? So what do we need to design today to help to get there?
I love it. So before we keep going, you said you used to play with Legos. Do you still play with Legos now, or is it?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. At my home office and work office, I have all sorts of Lego creations behind me. And we talk about flow time. I can absolutely find flow time and lose hours playing with Legos, doing puzzles, things like that.
I'm right there with you. That's one of my favorite things to do, and my son loves it as well.
Mhm.
So you can't beat that.
Yeah.
Sarah, you've introduced the concept of what you call valuability. How do you
Mhm.
define it, and how is it different from traditional KPIs organizations often focus on?
Yeah, you bet. So we at Ulteig, we look at things with a valuability lens. So we assess how we create value across three critical pillars. First pillar is for our clients. The second pillar is for our employees. And the third is for the communities that we serve. Breaking that down a little bit, when we think about value for our clients, it's thinking about how do we create solutions that aren't just solving that specific project need, but thinking about what is your client's long-term goals, what is their strategy, and then how do you create that, think about the end in mind and think about that long-term reliability, resiliency, and helping to minimize costs for the long term, not just for the short term. Bring that to employees. We find that employees who love showing up to work every single day are able to create better solutions. They engage better with our clients, and they really think about how the work that they're doing impacts the communities that we serve. So it's again, it's about how do we create that positive employee culture where employees are excited and energized to show up to work every single day. And then that third is around communities. So again, in all of civil engineering, the work that we're doing is really benefiting the communities that we serve. So how do we connect the work that we're doing to that benefit to the community to again create that engagement and to help the communities and improve that quality of life? And I
Hmm.
feel like that goes beyond those traditional KPIs
Yeah.
because you're not just thinking about, hey, what's the revenue we're going to make on this project? Hey, what's the schedule and timeline that we need to hit on this? But
Yeah.
it's also thinking about, hey, maybe if we spend a little bit more on this project and do things a little bit differently, it's actually going to save a lot of money and create value in that long term. So it's just kind of shifting that perspective.
How do you track that type of thing
So we have
with the
we have a number of KPIs. So when we think about client value, we actually look at dollar savings in the long run or value added engineering that we track for our clients. From an employee lens, it's employee engagement and looking at that value creation and connecting the employees. And then we also look at community benefits. So impact to the community, community service hours, thinking about what kind of looking at it from a much broader lens than just those traditional project KPIs.
I love that. Yeah, that's great. In today's environment of workforce challenges, policies can shifting all the time.
Mhm.
Tech, I mean, it seems like every day there's something new that you have to stay on top of.
Yeah.
It's continuously disrupting our industry. How can valuability help guide strategic decisions?
Yeah. So when we take a look at how technology impacts the work that we're doing, right, things are changing quickly. To your point, policy is changing quickly. We try to keep, again, focused on the long term. So not just adjusting and shifting by the moment, but thinking, okay, where are our communities going to be? What are our clients going to need in 20 years from now that looks different from today? And leveraging that value creation to navigate that uncertainty. So we may not know all of those things that might be changing and how technology is going to impact it today, but we know that our clients are going to want a resilient infrastructure system in 20 years from now. So let's design for that in the long term. And let's find a creative way to leverage technology to help us get there that may be different from how we've traditionally used technology in our work. So, how can we
Yeah.
automate designs, things like that?
It's kind of thinking outside the box a little bit of not
Mhm.
just saying, "Here's what I have to do." It's here's what might be best for a client or a project as a whole. Is what it
Exactly.
sounds like you're saying.
Exactly. Yeah, and it's also like us as an example staying on top of those policy changes for our clients so that we can help them think about the long term. So we're all in this together. We're trying to figure out the ways that things are going so we can be that advocate and that maybe, have a beacon to alert our clients to, hey, we're seeing this change. Our other clients may be adapting to this as well. So this may be something for you to consider.
So you talked about the three pillars of valuability: clients being the first one, employees, and then communities being that third. Can you talk a little about a time where those all three of those pillars were in play, and how you balanced them when project deadlines, budget constraints created competing priorities?
Yeah, James, one item or one project that comes to mind was a client asked us to create a capital infrastructure investment plan. It was a utility in the Western United States, and it was a 10-year plan. So certainly, all three pillars created had a place in what we were trying to create, and we had to balance all three of those. And certainly, there's competing priorities. So from a client lens, the
There always
utility
always is, right? I mean,
always, yeah.
it would be too easy if it wasn't that way.
Yeah, exactly. So the client was looking for a long-term strategy to address wildfire risks on their system and also be able to integrate more renewable energy and distributed energy resources on their system. So they needed a plan that both was technically sound, it was financially responsible, and it considered risk mitigation for the long haul. So our team had to come together and work under pressure to meet that client deadline and to think a lot more holistically. So how do we looked at how do we leverage tools and innovation to support and innovate our work? And we did that by using a weighted criteria to look at the different factors that were important to our client and figure out what do we need to prioritize and how do we use that to improve the output in a better way for our clients. So maybe, safety is the number one priority. Okay. Well, if safety is the number one priority, we need to make sure that whatever solution and recommendation we put together needs to address that. And then the certain benefit here is for the communities, right? The residents and the communities needed a safe outcome. They needed a resilient system. Again, everything is about keeping those customer bills low and affordable.
Hmm.
So we needed to certainly meet the utilities needs, but also keep that in the back of our mind. And it's all about striking that balance between those three.
So, what did success look like in this situation?
Success meant figuring out what that balance looked like. So the final plan strengthened grid reliability, it advanced the client's long term vision, and it really empowered our employees to find and contribute in innovative ways and to see those tangible outputs and outcomes of their work. So they could see the impact on the community and the client was certainly happy with the output. So maybe that's a good example of what valuability can look like in practice.
I like the word that you said there, which was the innovation that the employees bring. I think sometimes under under pressure, those deadlines, those budget constraints, innovation kind of gets thrown out the window. We don't
Mhm.
think about what's a new way of doing it. It's always thinking about, well, this is how I did it before.
Right.
I can do this fast. It sounds like this is a great way to really drive that innovation because at the end
Mhm.
that's what drives success.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's really about having our team members and our employees have a stake in the game, right?
Yeah.
If you give them that flexibility and a lot of our team members are wanting to figure out ways to leverage innovation and technology in their work streams. So it's creating that safe environment so they can test it, so they can innovate. Oftentimes that means failing and figuring out what works and what doesn't work so that we can make it better the next time. So that also helps drive that employee pillar of valuability. It creates that connection to the work.
So, how do you balance that being future focused with delivering results today? Because obviously, we can't just keep as being a consultant, you can't just sit there and spend money and spend time because the client wants results,
Yeah.
right? So how do you balance all of that together in the valuability model?
Yeah. So for us, it looks like how do you leverage innovation in support of the work that we're already doing? So we don't have the full opportunity to dedicate, 20-30% of people's
Hmm.
times to just sit and innovate and do R&D. But the great news is we have plenty of client projects and plenty of opportunities to actually test that real time in that safe environment, in that controlled environment. So maybe a good example that I can offer is we were able to automate interconnect applications for an electric utility. So, an electric utility we were working with was struggling to integrate renewable generation, distributed generation on their system. So, our team created an automation process that reduced the delays of getting those applications assessed, vetted, and approved from 15% to less than 3%. So the client was happy.
Yeah.
They were they didn't see those they didn't have as many of those delays. It allowed more renewable energy and again reliability and affordable energy for the communities that we served and it allowed our employees to say hey the client's challenging us to go faster right they wanted to reduce these delays and we had that goal, we had that solution, and our employees were able to say, "Hey, I think I have an idea. I know how to do some scripting. I might be able to leverage our technology team to work with me to create an automated solution to process these." So I think that's again another good example
Hmm.
of innovation in support of an outcome. So setting that clear goal and target, and then giving people the freedom to figure out that innovation on how to achieve it.
So employee and talent retention, engagement, big topic in the engineering world, right? We have a lack of employees, a lack of people in engineering. For those that are aiming to strengthen their talent retention and engagement, what are some ways they can begin integrating valuability thinking into their internal culture and practices?
Yeah, for me, it's really about intentionality. Much of the work that all of us in civil engineering and in our engineering world that we're doing today is actually it's already creating the value. Um,
Hmm.
it's all about how do you communicate that? It's communicate, communicate, communicate. So it's creating those connection points and highlighting how the work that our employees are doing impacts the project beyond just delivering that one solution. So,
Yeah.
hey, you were able to create clean drinking water infrastructure. So this community now has better, cleaner drinking water. It's, hey, we were able to accelerate distributed energy resources in the systems so these customers have safer, cleaner, and more reliable power. So it's connecting the work that our team members are doing to the communities that we serve. Hey, you actually solved this client's problem. Like they put out a challenge and you went and you solved it. So it provides that greater sense of pride and ownership, which goes a long way in that engagement and that retention.
Yeah, I normally hear that as is really connecting the why to the what,
Hmm.
right? We we
Yep.
we spend we spend so much time on what we do, not necessarily why we do it and what's the impact that we're making. And I think this is a thing for all engineers. We're not very outgoing in sharing the impact that we make in the world around us, right? And
Right.
so that's part of the struggle that we're in right now as an
Hmm.
industry is in finding that talent is we're not out there sharing as much as we could. Like, yeah, people understand that there's engineers involved with roads, but do you understand all of this that else that took place of why you have good drinking water, why you're not worried about traffic incidents occurring, how we're why we're able to get from one place to another via airplane or train or whatever it might be. It's really connecting that value like you said, and that's a huge thing that we need to continue to do. And it kind of connects a little bit to to storytelling aspect of telling the story behind why engineers are important.
Exactly. Yeah. I think engineers by nature are generally humble, and we
Yeah.
see like there's just a job to be done, and engineers jump in and they do that job to be done. And as leaders and as all of us in the industry, I think we have the opportunity to really champion and connect those dots and celebrate the work that we're doing because it is so critical to everyday life.
What's the best point in time of a project to be talking about that why? Is it consistently throughout? Is it, hey, this project's done, let's talk about why? Is it, what's your feel on where that why really comes into play,
It's
or the
always
valuability? Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
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 It's always, right? It's starting with the why before you even kick off the project and even bringing our employees into solving that client challenge. Like, I don't purport to be the expert on all of the things. I don't have all of the solutions, but
Hmm.
we have brilliant people from lots of different aspects of life and backgrounds, and all of them have different experience. So it starts at the beginning and it's reiterating throughout the project process why we're doing this work and how it's benefiting our clients and our communities. And then at the end, it's celebrating what we were able to achieve and also taking those lessons learned so that we can continue iterating and can continue to make it better along the way.
For engineers who aspire to influence infrastructure strategy, what are the key steps? What key steps can they take to position themselves as strategic leaders?
Yeah, this is a big one, and I think it really comes down to first and foremost thinking beyond technical execution. So traditional project delivery is about meeting those KPIs like am I on schedule? Did I meet my budget? But strategic leadership requires us to ask these broader questions. So things like how does this project create value for the long term for our clients, communities, and our employees? And then for me, it also means leading with empathy and authenticity. So,
Hmm.
my own leadership journey has taught me the importance of building trust and building relationships. And that comes down to being vulnerable, being authentic, being a good listener. So, being a strategic leader really creates space where teams can feel empowered to innovate, where they can contribute those ideas. And for me, it's about how do I create that environment and build that trust to get there.
Do you feel like it's difficult for most engineers to come out of that into that strategic mindset?
Maybe for some, but I think we're
Yeah.
all capable of it. I think it's just kind of changing the way you're wiring your brain or taking a moment to pull up a little bit and look at the bigger picture. But I think everybody's capable of it.
Sarah, it's been a pleasure talking to you about all this stuff. What's one final piece of advice you'd like to share with civil engineers, infrastructure leaders about staying resilient and adaptable as the industry continues to evolve?
That's a really good question. For me, I would say it's all about building relationships. So, relationships come from connections, it builds trust. For myself, it's surrounding myself with people who think differently from me, people that can be mentors, people that can be allies. So, I kind of think of it as my own personal board of directors. But the world around us is changing rapidly. Like we know there's not enough talent out there to get all of the work done. We know that technology is impacting the work that we're trying to do. We know that severe weather events are impacting all of this. So, with all of that rapid change, we have to be adaptable. And adaptability means that I don't always have that answer within myself. And that's where those relationships and those people that you can lean on to express your ideas, challenge each other, lead with empathy. I think that's where those relationships really come into play.
Thanks, Sarah. To wrap things up, we're going to transition into our civil engineering hot seat, where I'll ask Sarah a rapid round of questions that will give you a glimpse into the daily habits, influences, and insights that has helped shape her career. Let's jump into it.
Transform your technical experts into impactful leaders with EMI's Engineering Leadership Accelerator. Tailored for AEC professionals, this program enhances communication, delegation, and decision-making skills. Flexible, interactive, and designed to fit your team's schedule. Elevate your team's leadership capabilities today. Visit engineeringmanagementinstitute.org and click on corporate training.
Now it's time for our CE hot seat segment of the week with Sarah Beckman. All right, Sarah, you're officially in the civil engineering hot seat. Are you ready to go?
I'm ready.
All right. Do you have any specific rituals that you practice every day? For example, do you have a specific morning ritual, lunchtime ritual, things that you do on a daily basis that contribute to you being a successful professional?
Yeah, I have two things that I make sure I do every single day or most days. The first one is I work out most mornings. So my morning routine means that I get some sort of physical activity so that I can start the day fresh and I feel like it puts me on a good foot forward. And then I have a bedtime routine. So my bedtime routine is no phone, 1 hour, no
Mm.
screens, 1 hour before bed. I make hot tea and I have a book, an actual book with pages that I take time to read before I go to bed. So that kind of helps me wind down and decompress for the day.
Speaking of books, what's one book that you recommend to engineers regularly, or just one book that you have found to be extremely helpful in your professional and or personal development?
One of my favorite books that I recommend to nearly everybody is Think Again by Adam Grant. So, as an engineer, I used to see things as black and white, this or that, with a really data driven lens. And this book has really challenged me to embrace diverse perspectives. It's challenged me to think about my assumptions, which means being wrong a lot,
Mhm.
which means that I can then learn and get better.
Thinking back on your managers of the past, picture your favorite manager or managers. What made them your favorite?
There are a couple that come to mind for me, and what that looks like in my career was that they partnered with me to frame the goal or the outcome or what my career development could be, but they really let me figure out how I was going to get there. And they never let me settle for good enough. They
Mm.
always challenged me to push harder than maybe I thought that I was capable of, which caused me to take risks that I don't think I ordinarily would have or in other circumstances, would have. So they pushed me, they challenged me, and they never let me take the easy way out, but I always knew that they had my back no matter what happened.
I love that. I've got one final question, and that's the critical civil engineering career elevator advice question. If you got into an elevator with a civil engineering student and had about 30 to 40 seconds with them, what career advice would you share with them?
I would say get really good at the technical stuff. So don't rush your learning and your mastery of your engineering skills in the application of the built environment of the working world. So get really good at that technical stuff and then take on stretch assignments or take lateral moves so you can add more skills and tools to your tool belt. I think getting really good at that technical stuff and mastering your craft will allow you to better engage with clients, but then starting to take those lateral moves and adding that different kind of external expertise to your tool belt means that your clients are going to benefit, and you're going to benefit by seeing things in a different way, and makes you a lot better at strategy, and it just makes you that much more valuable of a player.
Sarah, I want to thank you so much for joining me today. Where can our listeners connect with you?
Yeah, so you can find me on LinkedIn, Sarah Beckman, and you can also go to the Ulteig website, www.ulteig.com, and you can find me at either of those locations.
And if anyone wants to learn more about Valuability, she's the one to reach out to. So appreciate everything you had to share today, Sarah.
Yeah, thanks. This has been fun.
Please remember you can find the show notes for this episode at civilengineeringpodcast.com. There you'll find the summary of the key points discussed in today's episode, as well as links to any of the resources, websites, or books mentioned during the episode. Until next time, I wish you the best in all your civil engineering endeavors.